Okay, so the first step as usual is to start a new Unity project. Let's open Unity. We're going to click on the new button and then we have to set the project name, location and rendering mode. So to start we're going to use here Fruit Ninja. The location of the project, what I usually do in my courses is, here is my home folder and I make a projects folder right under it in the hierarchy. This is important for you to keep your files organized and don't just mix things with the downloads, documents or desktop folder. Make a folder just for your projects, okay? And then as for the rendering mode, instead of 3D, we're going to use two-dimensional mode, okay? When you select one of these modes, it doesn't necessarily mean you cannot use the other one. It's just Unity is going to set up with a few presets based on what you select. We're not going to need any extra asset packages, and after we do this, we just press Create Project. So we're going to wait just a little bit for Unity to start, okay, to have all the files needed to make this work, and then we should be good to go. Okay, and before we move forward, we already have some art assets ready for us, so we want to import them in this project. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the folder where this project was created. You can just right click here in the assets panel and choose Reveal in Finder. So you go straight to its folder. And also, I'm going to open in the downloads folder this zip file, Fruit Ninja Art. You should be able to download this in your course directory. Okay, I'm just going to expand this to have this folder. And notice that we have two folders here, fonts and sprites. I'm going to copy them. Okay, just right click, choose copy. Doesn't matter if you're on Windows or on Mac OS, it works the same way. And here in the assets folder, I'm going to right click and choose paste. Once we do this, just go back to Unity, wait a little bit, and all the files are going to be here. Okay, that's everything that's external from this project from Unity that we need to use. Okay, so in the fonts folder, we're going to have this Shojimaru folder, font, and sprites, we're going to have a few different sprites. Okay, now this is a tip for you when you're making bigger projects, but still it's important to do this in smaller projects. I highly recommend you to here in the assets folder to right click, create a new folder and name this project. Then we get fonts and sprites and we're going to put them inside it. Some of you might be saying, hey, that's completely not necessary because, well, this is our project, this is our game. Why do I make a project folder inside my own project? We do this because whenever we add external assets, external asset packages from the Unity store or from anywhere else, any plugins that we do, all of them they're going to be here in the root folder. So it's very interesting for you to put everything regarding your game, everything that you are creating in a project folder, so you ensure that anything that belongs to any third-party app is going to mix up with your things. Okay, so we just have fonts and sprites here. This is the basic setup that we're going to do here. It just takes a few seconds, a few minutes to understand why we do this, but this is going to make a huge difference in the future. It's just going to make things easier. Okay. And first of all, we want to make a scene here. Okay, this game is going to have two scenes. We're going to have a title scene, which works as a main menu, and we're going to have a game scene. Okay, so in the start scene, it's going to be something very simple. We're going to have a basic background here, just standing still. We're going to have a title for our game, and we're going to have a play button. Okay, so we're going to do all of these things. First of all, if you have never worked with Unity interface, you're going to see how simple it is. Okay, here in the hierarchy, I'm going to right click, then choose UI, and then Canvas. The name Canvas is very interesting because it literally means that you are painting in a canvas, in a transparent canvas. And whatever you add to this canvas is going to be drawn on top of your game. So if you have 2D elements here, if you have 3D elements, if you have a huge terrain in Unity, it doesn't matter. Whatever you put in the canvas that's related to user interface, it's going to be drawn on the top. Okay, and if you select the canvas in the hierarchy, you're going to notice that there are lots of settings here in the inspector. But what we want to look, you see you have some components here. You have rect transform, canvas, canvas scaler, graphic raycaster, but these are the most important ones, these two. You have canvas and canvas scaler. First of all, if you select the render mode, you're going to see that it's saying here screen space overlay. But for this game, we're going to use screen space camera. Okay, this specific setting is not going to make a huge difference in this scene, but it's going to make in the other one, and you're going to understand why. Okay, but still, you're kind of converting how this is going to be rendered by using the scene camera, the main camera that you already have here. Okay, so back in the canvas, you notice here that when you select the screen space camera, you need to pass a camera as a parameter here. To do that, we're just going to drag the main camera and drop it here. Okay, that's all. Okay, so the camera is kind of going to be attached to this canvas, and everything related to the game is going to be rendered here. Okay, but still, we have other settings here: the sorting layer, ordering layer. We're not going to change these things. But here in Canvas Scaler, we're going to change things, okay? This is very important if you want to make your game responsive, if you want your game to behave correctly in multiple resolutions and different devices and different aspect ratios, okay? So right now you have the UI scale mode set as constant pixel size. We want to change this. We want to use scale with screen size. Okay, so if the screen size changes, if you play on a full HD device, or if you play on a device with a smaller resolution, it's still going to scale along with it. Okay, it's going to work the same way. It's going to look good. If you don't do this, if you run this game in a high resolution, it's going to look very odd because the interface might get too small. So it's important for you to care about how you make your canvas right in the beginning of your project, like we are doing right now. Okay, so we want to scale with the screen size, and we want to set a reference resolution. For this project, we're going to use 1280 for X, and for Y, 920. As for the screen match mode, it's saying here match width or height. This is very interesting. Okay, why? I'm going to the game window here, and I'm going to set the aspect ratio to 4:3. It looks like this. The way we are developing this game is we want to play it in landscape mode. Okay, however, notice that here where it says match, it's showing width. Okay, this slider here is all the way to width. The problem is if we leave it like this, if you play this game in a 16:9 aspect ratio, for example, then things are going to scale, but that's not what we want to do. We want to scale only with the height. Okay, for a landscape game, we want it to scale with the height. For a portrait, with the width. Okay, but still, since we're using landscape mode, okay, we're basically going to use these two aspect ratios, 4:3 and 16:9. We want this to match the height completely, so we move the slider all the way up to height, or we just type 1 here. Okay, and these are basically all the settings that we have to do for the canvas. You don't see any immediate adjustments, any immediate results by doing this, but still, again, it's very important to understand how this works. Once you make your game, you can try fiddling with these values here, changing their numbers and settings to see what happens whenever you scale your game. Okay, so back to the scene window. Now that we have a canvas, we basically want to add a background, something very simple. And there are a few different ways to add the background. The one that we're going to use is here in the canvas. I'm going to right click. So whatever I add when I'm right clicking here in this canvas and I have it selected, it's going to be under the canvas in the hierarchy. So we go to UI here and then image. So we have an image inside the canvas. Notice that the canvas is going to render all the user interface game objects, which are these ones here that you have. Okay? And once you add this image, you're going to notice here in the scene window that we just have a white square. Okay, we need to change the source image. We need to change the sprite that is going to be rendered in this image. So in the project window, in the project folder as well, we go to the sprites folder, and we have these sprites for us. Okay, sword, fruits, button, bomb, and background. And background is the one that we want. There are two ways to do this. You can just drag the background and drop it here in source image, or if nothing is set here, you can just click on this circle and you're going to see all the valid files in your project. Okay, I'm just going to use background. And again, you notice that the background is too small, it's still a square, but you can quickly set the correct resolution for this background by clicking on Set Native Size. Okay, so the entire background is now fitting the screen that we made with the resolution that we made. Notice that the background has a height of 923 and our canvas also has a reference resolution in its height of 920, so it fills correctly vertically. And if you look at the game window, you can see that the background is fitting the entire area. Okay, now that we have this, we want to add a title. Okay, something very simple just to say the name of the game. Here in the canvas, I'm going to right click, choose UI, and then text. Okay, you can't see the text here in the game window because it's too small. You can see a very short blur here. So we go back to the scene window and we can see the text better. Okay, notice that if you use this tool here, whenever you're dealing with user interface elements or other elements as well, you're going to see these blue knobs here. Imagine you're editing images in Paint or Photoshop or any other image editing software. You can quickly resize things by just clicking on these knobs and dragging them around. Okay, and if you click here and you hold the Alt or the Option button, you're going to resize it in an even better way. Okay, it's going to keep uh, mirroring whatever changes you do to one side to all of the other three. So we're going to increase its size to give a lot of space for this text that we're making. I'm going to change this text to Fruit Ninja. However, I still can't see it, but we're going to change this font size here to 64 or maybe more. Let's use 70. Okay, this is the title. It deserves a lot of space. To change the font, I'm going to click here in the circle and select Jojomaro. Good. And the color, I'm going to use either white or black. I think white looks better here. Okay, so white color. The alignment, we're going to center it horizontally and center it vertically. So it's going to be in this place. And I'm going to move this little box up here so you can see the title. And increase the size as well. Okay, don't be scared to use large numbers in the font size, because when you do this and you look in the game window, it's going to look much better. Okay, so that's all we need for this text. Now, before moving on to working with the play button, I want to talk about another thing. Let's say you want to put a very small credit here. You want to say, hey, this game was made by me. Okay, so we're going to make another text. First of all, let's rename this to title text. And here in the canvas window, I'm going to right click, choose UI, then text again. Okay, let's increase its size. Doesn't need to be as big as the Fruit Ninja one. We're going to put here a game by and then John Doe. Okay, we don't know your name yet, but you can just replace this with the name you want. I'm going to put this text in the bottom right. So it's interesting to change the alignment of this text to the right horizontally and down vertically. I'm going to change the font to Jojomaro as well, and the font size to 40, maybe 30. No, 40 is better. And I'm going to change the color to white as well, so this is easier to see. And I'm going to position this here. Okay, so if you look at the game window, it's looking like this, a game by John Doe. Okay, great. However, there is a problem here, and it's important for you to know about this when you're dealing with interfaces. Right now, we are simulating a 4:3 screen. Okay, it's a bit square. But if we change this to 16:9, you're going to notice that this text didn't move. Okay, it's still in the same place. While it doesn't make a huge difference with this little text, it might make with the user interface. Okay, if you have a wider screen, you want the elements to be distributed better. Okay, we don't want them to stand in the same place like it's doing right now. So what we're going to do is something very simple. We're going to work with anchors. When we have the text or when we have any element inside the canvas selected, if you look at the rect transform component, you're going to notice that there is this little square here where we can set how the anchoring for this works. Right now it's set to the center, so it's basically not going to move automatically. It's independent of how the canvas or how your screen works. But if we click here, we're going to see lots of presets that are going to really help us. And what we want to do is, hey, we want this element here to be anchored to the bottom, which is this row here, and to the right, which is this column here. So bottom right it's this option here. You notice that there's a little X that's pointing to this place here. And now, if you go to the game window and you change from 4 by 3 to 16 by 9, 16 by 10, or 3 by 2, whatever you want, the text is going to follow this. Again, it's not a difference in this game, but still, this is very important knowledge for you, so you can learn how to make interesting and complete interfaces. Okay. And now to finish this, we need to make a very simple button. We just want a play button that when you click, you're going to move on to another scene. Okay, so here in the canvas, let's rename this to credits text. Good. And again, in the canvas, we have two options to build this button. One of them is kind of an automatic way. If I right click on canvas, choose UI and then button, you're going to have a Unity button already preset here. You can click, you can interact with it. But let's make this differently. Okay, I want you to understand how a button works. A button is not just a button. A button is a collection of generally three things. A background image for the button, then we have the button component itself to interact with the game, and we have the text of this button, which is the label of this button. So how do we build this? Look, we're going to add a new image to this canvas here. So in the canvas, I'm going to right click, choose UI, then image. Okay, I'm going to rename this image to play button, like this. And now here, where it says source image, I'm going to click here, and I'm going to choose the button one. And then set native size, so it's going to have its size like this. Okay. Now, we need a label to this button, otherwise it's just an orange square. So, inside the button, okay, when we have the play button selected, I'm going to right click, choose UI, then text. This text here, we're going to do something interesting with how the anchoring works. We want the size of this text to be whatever size the button has. So if you increase the size of the button, you want the bounds of this text to follow it. So I'm going to click here and the anchor presets, and here in stretch I'm going to choose this option here. It's going to stretch completely horizontally and vertically, and if you hold the Alt button or the Option button, you're going to resize it so it's going to fit everything. Okay, so you see, if you hold Alt or Option, it changes the labels here. I'm basically going to choose it and then click here, and you see that the blue knobs are now matching the bounds here of this image. Okay, good. Once we do this, let's change the font to our custom font. I'm going to rename this to play. Font size, well, 70. Should be easy to read. Then we center it horizontally and vertically, and it seems like we have a complete play button. Okay, I'm going to move it down a little bit. Oops, I'm going to move it here. I think it's good. So you have the play button. However, if you simulate this scene by pressing the play button of Unity Editor, of course, you notice that you can't interact with this button. Nothing happens when you click, it doesn't fade, it doesn't get darker, lighter. There's no feedback that this is a button. It's because this is still not a button. To add this behavior, you have to select the play button game object. Here we click on add component, and we're going to search for button. Okay, so I'm going to click here in button, and just by doing this, if you press play and you click in the play button, okay, so you see it already changes. If you click, it gets darker. Okay, so we are starting to see a button behavior. But what if we want to change scenes? Okay, to do this, we're going to need a little bit of scripting. All right, so this is what we're going to do. In the project folder right here, I'm going to right click and make a new folder. So create folder, and this is going to be named scripts. Okay, good. Inside the scripts folder, I'm going to right click, choose create, then folder again, and then I'm going to name this UI. Okay, and inside this folder, I'm going to right click, choose create, C# script, and this is going to be named scene and then changer. Okay, scene changer. Why I'm doing this? This script is, we want to aim, whenever we're developing games, we want to make some things really easy to reuse. They have to be highly reusable. So when I make a script that's called scene changer, it's clear to everyone that this is basically going to change scenes. Okay, so this is going to be attached to buttons, and we are going to be able to determine what scene you're going to load. Okay, so good. I'm going to double click this script. So MonoDevelop is going to open. We're going to be able to write our code. So let's wait just a little bit for it to be ready. Okay, and whenever it's ready, this script here, okay, this scene changer is basically going to have one method. Okay, I'm going to take all of these, the ones that we have here, away. So no start, no update, not necessary. And I'm going to add here public void change scene, and this is going to receive one parameter. It's going to be string name. Okay, basically in Unity we want to determine what is the name of the scene we want to change to, and this script is going to take care of changing scenes. Now, to change scenes, we need to include a namespace here. Okay, we need to tell this file that we want to have some scripts available for us, some classes to be accessible by us. So I'm going to type using Unity Engine scene management. And here in the change scene method, we're simply going to say scene manager dot load scene, and between parentheses we're going to pass name. Okay, just like that. And you're going to save this script. Once you go back to Unity, you're going to see this little spinning wheel because the code is compiling, it's getting ready for us. And there we go. So you might be asking, okay, how do I tell Unity what scene I want to load? Just wait a little bit. We're going to choose the play button game object, okay, and we want to attach the script that we just made to it. So we select the scene changer and we drag and drop it like this. Okay, so it's going to be attached, or you can just drag and drop it like this in the hierarchy as well. Works the same way. And now if you expand the button component, you're going to see that there's a section that says onClick. The onClick is an event that's risen whenever you, of course, click the button. So there's an easy way for us to link this component with this one and call the method that we defined. I'm going to click on this plus button here. Now the onClick needs a target. The target is going to be the button itself. So we drag the play button and drop it here. Once the button is here, once it's attached here, you notice that this option has been unlocked by us. So we're going to click here. We're going to select scene changer. Notice that it divides by components, by scripts. And here I'm going to select change scene. And notice that we can set something here. Okay, that's because we made this a public method and it has a string parameter. So we can set the value here. Okay, this means that you can reuse this script in as many scenes as you want, in many situations as you want. If you wanted to change scene, you just drag this script here and then you name the scene that you want to load. I'm going to put game here. Okay, that's all. And now to test this out and move on to making the game logic, first of all we need to save this scene, of course. I'm going to File, Save Scene. Here I'm going to name this as title. Let's save. However, it's in the assets folder. Let me improve this. Let's right click, create, then folder. We're going to have a scenes folder. And in the assets folder, I'm going to grab this title scene and drop here in scenes. Okay, good. We have the title here. Let's make a game scene. Okay, we're going to File, New Scene. Let's make it empty like this. I'm just going to save it again. I'm going to name this game. And I'm going to drag and drop the game scene here. Okay, scenes. Now there is one important thing that you have to care about. Whenever you're dealing with scenes, you need to make sure that every scene that you have is added to your build order. Okay, we want to go to File, Build Settings, and you're going to have this Scenes in Build. Right now we are in the title scene. I'm going to click on Add Open Scenes, so the title is going to be added here. Okay, I'm going back to the game scene. And once again, I'm going to click on Add Open Scenes. This is going to make sure that all of these scenes can be dynamically loaded. This is essential for any game that you make in Unity. Okay, so we have title and we have game. And now, finally, let's go back to the title scene. I'm going to press the play button. So we have Fruit Ninja, a game by John Doe. We have the play button here. If I click on play, I dynamically load the game window. So with this quick tutorial here, we already know how to easily deal with interfaces and swap different scenes. Okay, you've learned a lot of interesting material, even though you might not have used lots of things, but these are the basics for making interfaces that work on multiple screens, multiple devices. It's going to be great for you to already know all of this knowledge. So once we have this ready, let's move on to developing our actual game. Make sure you save everything. So save scenes, save project, and let's go.